All right, time for our dollar dialogue. And this week we're talking about what to keep in mind when buying a car, because of course it is June, which we know is the peak time of year for car sales as manufacturers and dealerships push hard to clear out their stock and max out their sales before the financial yearbooks close on June 30. Now, joining us to share some of his top tips on how to nab a bargain and avoid a lemon is Pete Willis, who's the Director of Buying at digital used car marketplace Carma. G'day, Pete. Welcome back to the Savings Tip Jar.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for having me back.
Okay, first up, Pete, let's have your savings tip.
Well, look, I think it's quite topical. We've heard all things about, removing roof racks and things from your cars to save some fuel economy and things like that. It's certainly along those lines, making sure you've cleaned the car out and you're not carrying around the kit bag in the boot, part of the wardrobe on the back seat or all those lost tools from the odd jobs on the weekends. Same thing, very much keeps the rolling weight of the car down, but certainly saving on fuel. And it's a very topical issue at the moment and something that everyone should be really focused on.
Yeah, for sure. Good one. That one is easily forgotten. Sometimes, I will be driving around and then like months later be like, my God, I've got this massive heavy, I can't remember what it was. There was something I had in the car, like a toolbox or something that I wasn't using.
Yeah, cricket season's over and it's June, and for 3 months you've still had the kit bag in the boot rolling around. So
yeah, absolutely. Stuff like that. So it is.
That's going to smell good. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, good one, Pete. Now, getting into these end of financial year car sales we're seeing. First up, are these like really as good as they seem? Like, are these particular June car sales, are they any better than any other car sales throughout the year that we might see?
Look, I think there's a lot of emphasis that's put on the car sales at the end of the year, and it's mainly focused around the dealer's intention to clear stock as much as to be showing some better sales results, but that's where the focus is. This is really driven by the dealer to clear balance sheets and things like that. So really understanding why. I think one of the things that people get trapped in these sorts of situations is actually going out and buying a car that they might not necessarily have done their research, and it might not necessarily be the car, but they've seen a $3,000 or $5,000 savings on something, and then that's driven them to go and make the purchase. So really making sure that the car that you've gone out and was the car that you were sort of earmarking to go and buy, and that the car ticks all those boxes for you. That's a real important piece. And these things, if it's the right car and you've been doing your research leading up to this time, and you know that the saving's real, then that's a great time. We often see sometimes there's some inflated numbers that are then suggesting that the price was maybe too high to start with. So then that discount, is more just an adjustment back to the real market picture.
So there's some pretty slick car salesmen out there. How do normal everyday punters spot what's a sales tactic and make sure that they're doing the best thing for them?
Yeah, look, we put together this report, basically decoding dealers to try and understand some of those points and some of the red and green flags to really look out for. Ultimately, there's a raft of things out there that can sort of be a red flag to concern yourself at that point. We touched on a couple of these, from the point of clear pricing, really understanding where that is. Fake urgency. We've all heard that there's someone else coming to buy this. It's going to happen right away. As well as that quality and transparency that at the point of purchase you really want to have front of mind. So to sort of touch on that a little bit more, that clear pricing is making sure that at the point of purchase that you have the final number, the final figure that you're going to be paying for that car. No service, admin, other fees or charges on top of that. So that the number, you've agreed to buy it, you've got it in writing, it's $20,000, that's your price. You don't then go away, organise your finance and find out there's an admin charge, a service fee, an additional cost on top of that where you're sort of locked in to buy that car. That fake urgency, you've got, there's another buyer coming today, this price is only the price today. All of those sorts of things, if everything doesn't line up and you don't feel comfortable, feel free to walk away. Make sure you're taking your time to make sure that it all does stack up. And then that leads really into that quality and transparency, things around when you're looking at a car, making sure that all the documentation, service history and receipts and things like that are present for you to go through, and not just, be told that it's, it's got a great service history or that everything's fine, to be able to do your own due diligence and have a look through those things and make sure you've ticked the box and you're really satisfied that the car matches up the quality, but also with the car that it is.
Yeah, on that a bit. I mean, sometimes you can have some sort of car salespeople and dealerships that will apply a bit of window dressing to the cars. They'll do some cosmetic fixes that hide some mechanical issues. How do you spot that?
Yeah, so look, it probably sort of lends really well then to some of the green flags that we outlined. One of those is the ability to get an independent inspection. Everyone believes that they've either got the car guru or the car expert within the family, whether it was dad or the brother or the next door neighbor that's been, around cars, always tinkering with them. But the reality is, and, I've spent the better part of the last 30 years of my life in the industry, most people aren't equipped with the understanding of the product, especially the way things, evolve and, new technologies and things come in. No one has a diverse understanding of even looking at a car and understanding paintwork and things that might have been touched up cosmetically. So being able to get that in front of an expert that does that every day, is really important. But the ability to have that independent inspection.
So speaking of inspections, and that's what I would always insist on if ever I was to buy a car.
Absolutely.
So what are the things, the non-negotiables that you must get checked before you hand over anything, hand over a cent?
Talking through, all of the parts of the car, if someone's doing a full independent inspection of the car, that really helps. They'll touch on, bodywork and service history and mechanical sides of things. But also, before you even get there, you want to have a real understanding of the reputation of the person you're doing business with. The digital platforms today, there's so many ways to understand whether or not someone has, a 5-star reputation and really drives towards that. But also, a test drive is another real green flag. Having a real comprehensive test drive of a car really helps you satisfy that that's the car that's certainly worth your time and energy and going on further than that. The quick whiz around the block, with the salesman chatting to you and playing with the stereo dials whilst you do that, isn't enough for you to really understand if that car fits your life and is going to be something that you're going to be happy with and it's going to practically serve you the way you're looking for.
Now, Pete, these end of financial year car sales, we see all the big flags in the dealerships and then the sales lots. But what about for online marketplaces such as Carma? Is there any benefit to buying this time of year over other times on those?
Look, we pride ourselves on a few things, and one of the things is our clear and transparent pricing. All throughout the year, obviously we're buying and selling cars every day, huge numbers of them now, and being completely transparent and fair in the marketplace. So we price our cars competitively in the market. And what that does is it gives us the ability to be clear all the time, and selling at a stable method rather than just sort of spiking at the end of financial year. Naturally, it's a busy time of year. There's lots of people looking for cars, so it actually drives, a fair bit of activity in the market, which some dealers will try and cash in on. So we want to be fair and consistent, and we maintain our prices, with we leverage market data. We have an automated pricing model as well that understands where there's changes in the market, and we want to stay true to the market all the time.
Are there any hidden traps that we need to know about before we embark on this process? Is there any new things that are out there that we need to know about?
There's always, a lot to think about. And I think that's probably the thing that people don't really put into perspective when they go to buy a car. I think the best thing you can do is to really do your research before you go out and start, actively, looking at cars, so you know what you're looking for. There's things, the PPSR register to check for stolen and encumbered cars. That's accessible digitally online now. That's a really a good way to make sure that foundationally, you've checked those things and there's nothing, untoward going on that side. But also, really understanding if you're looking for a four-wheel drive, you're looking for a ute, you actually do your research, prior to getting out there and looking around and go, that's a car that's sort of going to suit my needs, and it's got some really, some good reviews online. It's got some, some good features that I'm really going to look for. But, not just going out there and making a split-second decision while you're standing in front of something. That's where people can quite often, that urgency, they can get trapped in the moment, and none of us have the time today. We don't have time to buy buy a car that's not great, or to spend time to really go and seek one out and find it.
Yeah, I can certainly vouch for the PPSR check, because I myself was very close to buying a used BMW, which was listed for a very suspiciously good price. And did the check, and I was like, "What's this encumbrance? What's that?" And
Yeah.
it turns out she was selling it with a loan attached
Very,
to it.
very good
And then I
tip,
called
Tom.
the lender. They didn't know she was selling it, and she was supposed to tell them. So, yeah. When I messaged the buyer about it, I say, I've just seen there's a loan attached to it, and she stopped responding, and suddenly the car listing disappeared.
Too good to be true is
Lesson
that.
learned.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely worth doing. Pete Willis, really appreciate your insights there this financial year, as people are rushing out to the car lots and onto online marketplaces such as yours to buy a car. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, Pete.
Cheers.